Okay. Okay, everybody, welcome to Quality, Risk and Compliance, what you need to know in NDIS service delivery. I am your host, Gina Ingrouille, and we also have effective policy staff, Alison Webb, who's our operations manager and auditor, and Sheila, it's hard to say your name, but we'll say Sheila May because that's easier. Sheila May, those of you who know us will know you deal with Sheila in the learning management area, as well as troubleshooting a few things here and there. So welcome to you all, and let's kick off with our presentation. I can see when I looked through the names, there was people there that I've never met before, whether they're actually in the room now or going to be watching the recording. Welcome to all of you as well. And if you don't know who I am, I've been in health and human services for over 30 years now, been assessing standards and auditing services for since 2004, 2005. So the NDIS wasn't my first rodeo, which is a really good thing. I've got a very broad perspective on this, and it's not tied to what everybody was given in the NDIS standards. So, yeah, so now these days, this part of my life is really about consulting these days. So let's kick off. Let's start our journey. So we've got some learning outcomes I wanted to help you realize today. The role of quality, risk and compliance in NDIS service delivery, the common risks for providers, coordinators and workers, practical ways to improve compliance and reduce your risk, and how to build awareness of responsibilities across your team. All right, so let's dive in. So we'll set the scene a little bit, and here's something that I used when I became a quality manager. I was a health practitioner, a clinician first, which I graduated in 1987, which is a really long time ago. Uh, this might seem like, what has this got to do with quality management and risk? I'm going to tell you what I learned. And I didn't, it was 25 years later before I actually looked back on what I learned in 1985, 86, and 87 and used it in my quality management journey. Okay. So when I was studying physiology, I realized that all my classmates around me were studying the venous system, then the arterial system, and then the nervous system, and then the lymphatic system. And I thought, how unusual, because what I did was look and see, well, what are the differences between these? Because there are more similarities than differences in their pathways. So I looked at this and went, I'm just going to learn the circulatory system, and then I'm going to make a set of exceptions for where the nervous system or the lymphatic system deviates from there, rather than learn all the nervous system, all the venous system, all the arterial system, and all the lymphatic system. And my gosh, it made it so much easier. So I didn't know it back then at 21, but I was probably a quality manager in the making because I saw patterns and I saw systems and I wanted to make things easier. So I was very lazy in that way. So we only want to learn one pathway. That's the main thing. And then just have the exceptions. What does that have to do with what I'm going to talk about today? I want you to think about it in those concepts. I want you to grasp that concept and make it easier for yourself in what we're about to learn. So you've got quality, compliance, and risk. Now, what it's about for you guys are the NDIS core practice standards, and they're broken up into rights and responsibilities, that's Division 1, governance and operations, which is Division 2, provision of supports, which is Division 3, and then provision of support environment, okay? So we're going to use the core rather than dive into all of the others individually, because this is really a conceptual thing that I want you to understand as well. Obviously, there's medication management and waste management, but I just take that for granted and include it in the core. So, out of those four divisions, which of these do you think is most important and which one overarches them all? Let's go back one page. And I'd like to hear either verbally or in the chat. I want you to tell us which one you think is the most important. Come on, let's do it. Which one is the most important? Which one is overarching or has the potential to be overarching?
Lisa,
Rights and
Division 2.
responsibilities. Division 2, we've said. Division 2, we've got a governance, we've got another rights and responsibilities. Keep going, keep going. Pop it in there. Rights, rights. We've got a lot of rights. So we've got a few Division 2s. Come on, there's more of you out there. Throw it in there. Oh, someone wants to hedge their bets. They're going rights and responsibilities or governance. Good, good. Division 1, we've got another Division 1. We've got another Division 1. Let's see, Division 1. I should have done a poll, shouldn't I? But this is easy enough to see. Okay, okay. Any more? Give you 30 more seconds. Anyone else wants to throw their hat in the ring? No? All right. We'll call it. We'll call it. Okay. Out of those four divisions, which one's the most important? It is governance and operations because it's the head on your octopus. Okay. There isn't any one of those that can be the overarching guiding framework for the rest of them. And when I say the rest of them, I mean every other module as well, not just these core that I'm dealing with today. Core is just the example, and it is the one that most people are registered under on its own. Now, how does that look? Why is it? Why is it the overarching and the most important? If you become thoroughly acquainted with the governance framework, you will be exercising quality, risk, compliance, and of course, governance. Okay? Because you can't have any of these working independently and still be effective. If one isn't working, what's what I meant to say? If one isn't working, then the others will be impacted. So we must have them all working together, okay? So your NDIS governance framework, and it's a blue color, and we're going to have different colors as we go through here, is I have subcategorized it into the governance and operational management, which is Division 2. And underneath that, you've got continuity of supports, human resources, incident management, feedback and complaints, information management, quality management, risk management, and emergency and disaster. So if we're learning about compliance and quality and even risk, we've still got governance overarching us. So to think that you don't would mean you would be missing certain aspects and actually making the job harder for yourself. So they all work together with governance and operations as the overarching head on the octopus, okay? You can see where our other modules can fit very nicely. So I only need to look at the core to tell you that there's nothing that I can't see just by auditing your core, right? Now, I'll go one step further and say, if I only audited your Division 2, I would still, if I am an auditor that knows what they're doing, I will still be able to see everything else that you're registered for. Can you tell me where we see this reflected in the NDIS commission processes? And I'll say it again, that I can audit just your Division 2 of the core And if I do my job properly, and I say that because a lot of auditors do not do their job properly, but if I do my job properly, there is no module, no service that I can't get my little mitts on. Yeah. And which one of those? What do we see? How do we see the fact that governance and operational management can reach down into every single thing that you do if it's done properly? What do you see in the NDIS Commission's processes of audits that reflects this very nature of governance and operational management being the most important thing, Division 2? It's like the stargates. It's a thing that you walk through for everything else. Come on, guys, I know you're going to know it if you keep thinking, what about the audit process that NDIS Commission puts you through confirms that, oh yeah, okay, Division 2 is the most important thing. And I can't escape anything if it's audited properly. Where do we see an auditing of Division 2? Not one person wants to have a crack.
I assume I'm not allowed to.
Go, Ali.
It's your midterm.
Your midterm. It's not just a coincidence or a fate that, or a random choice that a midterm audit, that means the one between your initial audit and then each and every re-registration audit, it is not a coincidence or random choice that Division 2 is the only module that is looked at, division that is looked at your midterm. And when you get a lazy auditor or auditor who doesn't really understand how it all works, you might get away with not having much done. But when you get a good auditor, and I'd like to think that the auditors are improving as time goes by, they have the ability to reach down into every single one of your modules. Can you see that? Anything at all. So if they only skim over your policies and procedures and a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of compliance, so be it. But that's not the way it's meant to be done, and we will see changes coming in the near future. So if that's the one that's chosen because of the fact that it has tentacles in everything else in your business, then it's pretty important. So if you want to be on top of quality, risk, and compliance, please get your head around the governance and operations, because they don't separate. If you want to be good at what you're doing and you want to have an eye on everything and be able to know what's happening in every area of quality, risk, and compliance. Okay. Does that make sense now? For those of you who are registered, you think, oh yeah, that's what our midterm is about. Yes, okay. And that's why it's chosen. Because, rights and responsibilities is really important, but it's not enough. It doesn't have the capability to reach down into every single nook and cranny. So the good news for you guys is that if you get your head around this governance framework, then if you understand each and every one of those yellow things underneath that governance framework, which are the areas, which is continuity of support, human resources, incident management, feedback and complaints, incident management, quality management, risk management, and emergency and disaster management. If you get your head around them, memorize them like they are your children or your pets, then it's going to be simple as for you to then know what my compliance framework is. My compliance framework is exactly the same. Okay? My compliance framework has to cover off on all of these same things. And funnily enough, our risk framework has to cover off on all of these things again. And wouldn't you know it, our organizational and reporting framework has to cover off on all of these things. And just to top it off, the quality framework is actually all these things. So if you get your head around one, you've got your head around all of them. And if you think you can do quality without risk, compliance, or governance, you can't. If you think that you could have good governance without compliance, quality, and risk managed well, you can't. If you think you could have good compliance without risk, quality, and governance managed, you can't, and so on. They have to be working together. There is one that can take the position of an overarching, and that, of course, is your governance and operational management. But they can't be perfect. There's no way. It's not possible. It's just never going to happen. So it's getting your head around all these things. So that's an interesting part for when we talk about what are the problems with quality management sometimes, or quality and compliance management. So let's bring it back to the head on our octopus, which is your governance framework. It's governance. And governance gives the key and the permission to reach down into all these things, which once again, they're not granular areas of service. These are frameworks. These are frameworks. These are frameworks, and these are frameworks, right? So the governance has the power. If you have it working well, then you have the ability to reach down into all of these, which also reach down into everything in the organization. It's a framework. It's an overarching framework, governance. So I didn't call this a governance talk. This is compliance, quality, compliance, quality, and risk. You can't do them without your governance. So what does it mean? I don't want you to learn all of those structures separately. Just learn one, and you know that you can be across the others from a conceptual and practice point of view. Okay? You do need to learn governance, and then you'll know them all. Exactly that. Just focus on the one, like I did on the human systems, and there'll just be some exceptions here and there. Yeah? But for you, you don't really have too much in the way of exceptions. The frameworks are the same. There just might be, of course, nuance. Quality is a little bit different to compliance. Compliance is a bit different to risk, and so on and so forth. Just know one and apply them to all right? Hope that makes sense. So, the role of quality, risk, and compliance in the NDIS service delivery space. Let's hear from you guys. What is the role, in your view, of quality, risk, and compliance in the NDIS service delivery space? Let's hear from you. What is its role? Why is it there? Why is this thrust upon us all? Primarily to safeguard participants and the staff. Correct? Correct? There's a bit more from Lyndall down there. Oh, no, that is the staff one. To ensure quality supports are provided. Correct? Safe services. Correct? Protect the interests of all stakeholders. Protect the interest of all stakeholders. Name your stakeholders, VJ. I don't think it protects the interest of all stakeholders. There might be a different way that you meant to say that. We've got Rita, all of the above, and for smooth operations and management, participants and service providers. Would a participant be a stakeholder? Yes, a participant's a stakeholder, but they're not the only stakeholder, are they? So when I saw that, when I saw protect the interests of all stakeholders, that's a little bit too broad for me. I would be willing to accept protect the interests of participants, but I wouldn't be willing to protect the interest of all stakeholders. I would be more inclined to say if it was going to be a whole of stakeholders um, statement, I would be more inclined to say to ensure quality from all perspectives and all stakeholders. Um, by protecting the participants, you protect the company's reputation. You absolutely do. That's correct. So there are lots of stakeholders. Stakeholders is a very broad word, so we'd have to drill, you'd have to be very specific. But being broad, quality standards usually look at, the quality of service, how it's experienced by stakeholders. And the NDIS Commission standards do not look very heavily at that, not compared to the health and community service standards or the alcohol and drug standards or any number of standards. It doesn't look at that as heavily. And so that's pretty good. So yeah, so now that we've established quality, compliance and risk, we are connected, we can talk a bit more deeply about them. So first, we'll go looking at some examples that have gone wrong. I just read VJs, includes participant staff, contractors, service providers, and regulatory requirements. Yeah, I'm not sure that I'd use the word interests because for me, interest means, you know, that what's right for them. And uh, I probably would have used safety and quality of service or something like that. Perhaps, yeah, that's all. Just the word interest has a real connotation to it for me. Um, so, where quality, risk, and compliance exists independently and it goes wrong. So, here's where it's cut off from governance. An admin worker for an organization had an eye for detail and spoke in the language of quality. She had no prior experience in quality, but it was recommended to the organization that the organization train her up to be the new quality and compliance manager. She was able to make some changes, but most of them were minor. She couldn't make meaningful change as her suggestions were shut down because the director said she was too over the top. The team leaders didn't follow her instructions because they knew she had no real authority and she was actually beneath them on the hierarchy, staffing hierarchy, beneath the team leaders. So, what do you think went wrong there? Oh, was there? Oh, yeah. What do you think went wrong there, guys? And it happens everywhere. What's missing? Anyone going to have a crack? Put in a position without the authority for the role. Yeah. The hierarchy was not supportive of her doing her work. The organisation did not place importance on it, not at all. Yeah. Did not resource it correctly. Lack of recognition of the staff. No changes were made because she did not have the backing of the management team. Correct. Correct. Yeah. There is always going to be times when management will say, yeah, maybe not that one. We don't want that one. But if you're going to thwart a person at every stage, or the team leaders, not managers, team leaders have more authority than you, and just laugh and go and do their own thing, it's not going to work. You can't you can't if you put a person in a position like that for a while, the stress internally and the lack of satisfaction in their job, you see that turnover. You just see the turnover. I see many people leaving an organization because of just that. Or if they can't afford to leave because they possibly couldn't get a job anywhere else. And that's often the case because we see a lot of people in quality, risk and compliance roles who actually have no idea what they're doing. None at all. Um, so yeah, that's scenario one. Example two. An experienced quality manager quit after only 8 months on the job with a big organization. She had 12 years of experience. She was met with resistance at every change. If it was around governance, conflict of interest, and the things that would be putting the organization's reputation at risk, she was met with resistance at every stage. She had the authority, but nobody really followed through with the changes. So that what we call passive resistance. So you can have people who simply won't do what you ask, or you can have people who will say they're going to do it, but they don't. That's passive resistance. Or you can have people that just say, where the boss says no. In this situation, I can tell you that this organization's owner, managers, board had zero understanding of conflict of interest. Zero. It was a very icky place. And it wasn't me that worked there, but it was icky. Um, you know, people they know in the community on the board. It didn't, nobody was hired through anything other than the fact that they knew them. It's a very unpleasant situation, one which, I would steer away from at the first glance. So she just, unlike the other person who didn't leave and wouldn't have, because she's very inexperienced, this one just went, I'm done. Like, I'm out of here and walked away. Yeah. Um, so I think what I'd like you to take away from that is that if you're going to hire a quality manager, um, if you don't give them some authority to make changes, unless you are a super expert at quality, compliance, risk, and governance, ask yourself if you're the one to be telling them no. Should you be a little bit more open if they have an enormous amount of experience? Okay. All right. Example three. Uh, an organization went through an internal audit with us, chose not to implement any of the changes. They had a compliance notice placed, 2 years later. I was consulting to this organization. I was thwarted at every word and point of, but this, but that, but they do this, and but. Not willing to take on the instruction, wanting more to just keep on being in the victim of it all, um, and not wanting to take responsibility, not wanting to do their part as the owner director in this situation. Um, and over a period of time, it was very obvious to me that they weren't visibly looking for a scapegoat, but anybody was going to be their scapegoat at every chance. So I said, you're not going to follow my instruction. I'm not going to waste your money and my time. And I walked away. 2 years later, they were permanently banned. Now, they did hire a quality manager, and that quality manager, have we got another one after this? Or is that,
No.
no, that quality manager came from an ISO 9001 background, and he didn't know a thing about health, human services. Um, I don't think, look, there would be some ISO managers who would really hit the ground running. Absolutely. Even without knowing the nuances of this. But that wasn't the one. Um, so clearly they still ended up with a banning order. And I know the ins and outs of pretty much why, even though I haven't had contact with that organisation. 2 years from that time, because if people are going to pay me and not take my advice, why would I waste my time and theirs? I'm just not. So that was an interesting one. And that also happened with another organization as well. Same thing. But where quality, risk, and compliance exists independently of each other and governance, things will go wrong. Okay? Things go wrong. Common risks for providers and coordinators and workers. The risks can be broken down into there could be issues with the manager or the CEO, issues with the quality and compliance manager themselves, issues with the frontline staff, common risks and mistakes for managers. Again, no understanding of quality, compliance, or governance. If you don't know what you don't know, then, and I believe when I told you the story of this woman, she had zero understanding of governance, zero understanding of real risk management, and zero understanding of quality, and an absolute mandate to keep on making a lot of money. Um, no understanding of quality, compliance, or governance, no clear delegations provided to staff. Some of them didn't even have position descriptions. Hiring people without necessary skills for the role of quality manager doesn't work. Don't take the nearest thing to you. Don't take the easiest way out. Don't grab the person who's closest to you. And if you have gut feelings, listen to them. If you don't have gut feelings, just try and be logical about it. If they don't have the experience, are they going to do a good job? Or is it just going to make it harder for you down the line? Uh,
We have Joanne requesting to go back a slide.
sure. Yes, ma'am?
Yeah, Joanne, do you have a question? Okay, no questions. Just didn't get to read it.
Oh, did we not
All
read
good.
it? Oh, yeah, okay. Common risks for providers, coordinators, and workers in terms of the quality, compliance, and risk. The risks can be broken down into, oh, didn't we? We've already read that one, haven't we? Yeah, okay. That's right.
Yeah. Mhm.
No understanding of quality compliance. Yes, we went through that one. Hiring people without the necessary skills for the role. Please don't. I can't tell you how many support workers how many compliance, how many compliance and off, and it's always compliance officer. Please call it quality and compliance. It's more about quality than it is about compliance. But when I first started working in the new disability sector, which I call that the NDIS because I precede that sector. Um, the word quality didn't get anyone's attention. When I said the word compliance, it got everyone's attention. That makes me really sad. I just really like everyone to use the word quality and compliance because it's about quality. Compliance is part of quality. Um, it's quality and compliance. But I found that when I first started out, 5 or 6 years ago, if I didn't use the word, like I tried quality, in all my emails or my posts on social media, it didn't mean anything to anyone. They didn't care. But put the word compliance in, and everyone came running, and that makes me really sad. It's quality and compliance, and quality should matter. It wasn't the driver for me when I was when I worked in that field as a PAYG employee. That wasn't my driver to have compliance. My driver was to have a bloody good service and have everybody around think what a great service I am and to have fabulous outcomes with my clients. That was my driver. And that's quality management. These are quality standards. Um, if we could start changing that language around that and not just think of it as compliance, compliance. It's quality and compliance. Um, so where am I at, Ali? Have I read these?
Sorry, I
No
might have.
understanding of quality, compliance, and governance, no clear delegations. That's an example that I see over and over again is, not no clear delegations. Um, a, a position description needs to reflect what you're telling that person to do. And if it isn't, there's a problem. Um, and we can't expect the world when we hire people without the necessary skills for the role of a quality manager. Um, Position descriptions is just incredibly important. Now, not only is it not fair to ask someone to do something that isn't in their position description, or they don't have one, but you're not protected. You're not protected from fair work. You're not protected for insurance purposes. First time you make a claim, whether it's fair work or workers' comp, and believe me, in the NGO sector, I've been through it all as a CEO. Um, if you do not have that position description, which is accurate, um, and all of the paperwork to back up everything that you've done everything the right way, you will be held responsible, and you will be the one paying. So it's incredibly important for your own service's sake to have all these things. Um, from a financial and risks perspective to have them, but also from the fact that give the person the chance to do a good job by giving them all the tools and the right documents that they need to do that. Um, the other thing that we find that is a big risk is it's great. People find, oh, here's a thing we're going to do a quality improvement action, and they do it, and then they don't review it. You've got to review it. You've got to review it for its is it working or is it not working? And if it's working, it becomes something called business as usual. And if it's not working, you try something else. But there's just this stop, isn't there, Ali, in that there's this review date that they put in to their register and nothing comes after that. Uh, and it doesn't matter how many times you want to tell assessor or an auditor, oh, but it's been great and it's been working. And if it's not written down, it didn't happen. If you don't have the evidence of it, it didn't happen. That's how it happens. We must have this documented evidence of this when we are working under standards. That's the expectation of us and our organisation and our organisational staff. Um, of course, inadequate documentation kept. I just actually talked about that. So if the documentation is inadequate, it's not helping anybody, and it's certainly not going to get you through your quality standards. Using the quality manager as the scapegoat and blaming them when things haven't gone right. I think very carefully about that. Who, who is it that's not getting it right? Like, we've got to look at all levels of the organization. Sure, there will be, and there are. There are some quality managers who are not doing a good job. But let me tell you a story. I love stories. I went to do an audit for an organization in Leichhardt, um, and she said, I had a quality manager. I said, well, having done your internal audit, there isn't anything done. And she went, but he was here for months and I paid him so well. And I went, well, he hasn't done anything. And so the story became, it's his fault. And, we could have a debate on this. Like I say, it's actually the CEO's fault. But of course, the quality manager did the wrong thing, but she didn't watch him at all. She just let him go for 5 months. And thought, where's all the work that you didn't do? Where were the processes in place? Yes, he made a mistake. That person did the wrong thing. But we must have checks and balances, processes in place to make sure nobody gets the opportunity to do that to us. And it happened to me once when I was another auditor, going back to like 2014, and I said, would you do you want to do this piece of work? She said yes. And 6 weeks later, nothing. I'd been paying her, and I said, where is it? And it's like, it's on me, isn't it? I didn't have any project timelines. I didn't have any of it. It's on me. Sure, I'd never hire her again. And she's a good person, but it was on me. I didn't have all these checks and balances in place, which was not like me. And the reason is you can get sucked into, but they're another auditor. I've just done an entire audit with this person for a national organization. She's not going to do, she won't do that. She'll do it right. But I was wrong. She didn't. Don't make any allowances for anyone because they're a good person or you know them or their family or their whatever. Everybody has to have the same. We must have our checks and balances, our performance indicators, what we're expecting from people, etc. So I had nobody to look to but myself for that one. So, what's next, Sally?
Common mistakes with the quality manager. I just wanted to flag in the chat, someone asked whether or not they would be getting a copy of the slides after this. We are sending
Not,
out the recording.
but not the slides.
Yeah, great.
Common risks, mistakes for quality manager. No understanding of quality and compliance and governance. Now, I see that all the time because people have just been given a job. They were the nearest thing and people reach for them. And I understand it because I've done it myself. But don't do it. It doesn't pay off. Inadequate power or authority to enact any of the changes. That's like sending someone a lamb to the slaughter. Um, do not have the appropriate respect from the other workers to effectively manage. I think people have to be a good leader. They have to have, there's something that quality managers have, and it's influence. If they haven't got influence and they're not liked and et cetera, they're gonna be in for a hard ride. You know, whatever it is that someone has, and it's not always going to be the same characteristic or quality, but there will be people who have a particular quality that people are somehow just respond to. One example is I can be really horrible. I mean, I can be a pain in the butt and I can complain and whinge and I sometimes, I don't say things in the most diplomatic way anymore because I feel like I'm too old and I don't have to. But I'm still pretty good at quality. It was really good when I was doing some quality management for a big peak body, and we were all in a lift together, and they said, so funny, because there's a whole bunch of them, and they went, we're doing these things that we really didn't want to do, but you make like you, I don't know how you got us to do them because I didn't want to do that, and he goes, I didn't want to do that, and I didn't want to do that, and I just sort of looked away. And it's like you've got to be able to make people do things that they actually don't want to do without them really knowing that they're doing it. Yeah. So that's a bit of it's not just grab the first person next to you, promote that one. When you're going to interview for quality, risk, and compliance, find out what that person has done to get other people to do something that they didn't want to do. Yeah. And that's
Oh, the
influence.
J said .3 is very common in workplaces.
0.3. Yeah, exactly. Do not have you can't, it's like it sort of just feeds into, are they the right fit? Do you know what? Being a quality manager in a big organization, people are not going to like you. You're going to be telling them to do things they don't want to do. And I think we said as well, if you want to be liked, if that's important to you, that's probably not the role for you. If you don't really mind whether you're liked or not, um, that's fine. And at the end of the day, your influence will prevail if you've got influence. So it's not just a job for everyone, the takeaway from that. This isn't a job for everyone. Choose wisely, okay? And be watching in your staffing for the people who exhibit the signs and characteristics of who might be a good quality manager. It is often that their eyes light up. Sure, they have to have an interest, but who do you see who's getting people to do things that they don't want to do? Because that's what they're basically going to be doing as well. All right, what's next? Common mistakes from the frontline staff. It's the manager's responsibility to ensure the staff are meeting expectations. Yeah, we know people step outside of legalities and they do the wrong thing, but we need to keep our eyes on the tennis game and be, managing people as they go along. So what makes a good quality manager again? Attention to detail, pattern finding, ability to understand the nuance and flexibility, not to get too caught up and get upset when things won't go their way. Curious, wonder how things work, always want to make things work better. Experience in health and human services will always make a better person for an NDIS position. Experience on the floor is fabulous. Experience in management is fantastic. I think I attribute a lot of my laziness to being a good quality manager. The smoother and better I could make things run, the longer the lunch hour I could take, basically. Really, I just want things to work smart and fast. Don't care what other people think. If you want to be liked all the time, it's going to be an uncomfortable ride for you. Um, a good temperament as well, because you will be having some conversations where you're going to persuade people. You could call it a mini debate. You're going to need to be a bit persuasive. So again, being a crankpot is not going to help. So you can see it's more than just grabbing a person off the sidewalk, and it's more than just, if you want it to be successful, there's a few characteristics that go into making, a person who's possibly going to have more success in this area. I think that's practical ways to improve compliance and reduce risk. Oh, here we are, bullseye. All right, so you'll all have some different things in place for yourselves. It really comes down to having all of what I've said, and be this governance, governance, and governance. Without it, you won't have the compliance, risk, and quality. Your analog or digital systems, it doesn't matter what you choose as long as it's working for you. It just doesn't matter. You need to be dedicating a couple of hours a week at least to maintaining these systems so they don't cost you more down the other end. And if your person is not keeping those up to date, give them an opportunity to start doing that. And if they don't, get rid of them, because that's their job. Their job is to keep all the systems up to date. Otherwise, you may as well not have a quality manager if they're not doing that. We can send you out, we'll send you out a link that shows you demos to a couple of the things that we use. One, an Excel spreadsheet that I designed over many, many years of practice, and the software that we built that into. We can show you a quick fire of that in a little video that Ali made. I think also, if you're looking for ways to build awareness of the responsibilities across your team, quality doesn't sit with one person, and if you think it does, it's going to be a really hard ride. It's for everyone. It should be in everyone's position description. Everyone has a place in quality management. As I said, it needs to be in their position descriptions. You need to have an agenda on your team meetings which says quality. You need to have an agenda on an executive meeting that says quality. Every level should have quality on it for discussion. Of course, it will be at different levels. Of course, you'll be talking about different things, from frontline staff to team leader to executive. They're all going to be a different level of conversation. Just to let you know too that I'm going to write a 2-day quality compliance and auditing training, because I just feel that the quality, there are some really good quality standards auditors, and there are some really awful ones that work that audit for the commission, and it's just very saddening to see. And also, there are a lot of people that that of the nature that I described to you, who have just been plucked out of the workforce from support work, or plucked from here, or their Auntie Betty or Uncle John, or whatever. A lot of people without skill. We just like to see that change, and it can change. But I think that the diploma in quality audit through the vocational education and training system is awful. I don't think it's I don't think it's very good. I don't think it gives you the real experience that you need. So anyway, just letting you know that at some point in the near future we'll be doing that. But yeah, that's it. Now, have we got any questions?
We've got a
Yes, we do.
question from Vijay. Yeah.
Sorry, you go, Sheila.
Will the 2-day training meet the NDIS audit training requirements?
You mean to be an NDIS auditor?
I'm assuming that's what they mean, yes.
Yeah, no, we're not. That's, there's only one company that does the NDIS auditor training, and that you need
It's
to
not
be,
us.
yeah, it's only one company, and you need to be employed as an auditor to do that training. And what I'm saying is, I'm not very impressed with any of the training out there, whether it be from the vocational and education system or whether it be that particular training in itself. Yeah, I just think it could be better. That's all. Um, but that's just my view. Um,
Another question, can we get a certificate of attendance for our CPE purpose?
Yes, of course you can. Yeah. Sheila will send we're only going to give them out to people who turn up to the actual recording. Sorry, to the actual event. We're not going to give them out for anyone who watches this by recording because we don't know that you did. So we only know who came into the room. Yeah. But most definitely, yes. Any other questions or comments or
Another question from Katie, who the provider that does the auditing training?
who, who does it? It's not a provider. Well, if you want to know about becoming an NDIS auditor, you need to go to the NDIS Commission's website. And you can't do it unless you've got a job as an NDIS auditor. Anyway, any other questions, guys? No? All right. Well, drop us a line if you have any questions. We will send you out the recording, which will have availability for how long is it that
30 days.
30 days?
And we'll also send the demo of our
Yeah.
online smart compliance system and a I think we've got a demo of the Excel one as well.
There's a question from Julie. Thank you, Ali. Any suggestions for getting better buy-in for quality manager roles from managers? All right. Yeah. I mean, I think that's the stuff that's not talked about enough, yeah, Julie, and I think everybody has had trouble with buy-in. And I came back to the being influential. Um, I think that's really important. It can be like pushing a wheelbarrow up the hill, trying to find ways for being influential, but also if your manager isn't, if you don't get an absolute, I support you and I will back you, then you're going to be on that uphill climb forever. So you really want to manage up. You manage your manager and say, well, look, if you'd like to jump in here and do it yourself, great. I'll get you a seat. But yeah, and you would discuss that in your supervision with that manager. Also, I think it's a really good thing to have if you can find someone or ask your boss to pay for supervision for yourself. That might occur on a monthly basis. That is a really sensible thing to do, and then that's a professional development, and they win and you win. Everyone wins out of that. Immature quality and compliance culture. It's horrible. It is. It is. It's, it can be really soul destroying. It's much easier when you have authority, and I would put my persuasive skills into getting that boss to give you what you need because there's plenty of other people out there who'll want you. Did I miss something here? We've got this HSQF.
Renee
Persuasion,
Weeks.
patience, perseverance is what I have always used. Yeah. Across HSQF, NDIS, PS, ISOs. Yeah, absolutely. You really, you can't do the job without those things because we're asking people to do things that they don't want to do, which is a skill. Uh,
Um,
thank you, and thank you for coming. Thank you, thank you.
and yes, we will be emailing out the information once we have the 2-day course. So
Yeah.
anyone who registers through Eventbrite with us, they get added to our mailing list. So you'll be on that list. But we can also send it out to you directly if you need.
I hope it was insightful. Thanks, Beth. Thanks, everyone. I hope you grabbed something from that and can run with it. And really remember, like I said, the trouble you might be having with your managers up top or, that's governance. How are you going to get in on that governance? You got to get in on it. You've got to be in on it. You got to get in there.